And welcome to this session on SAP Convergent Invoicing. Shortly henceforth, we will refer to as SAP CI. Let me introduce myself. I'm Simha here, presenting this particular session on SAP CI. I'm into functional consulting and also actively involved in conducting training programs on various SAP solutions that include SAP ISU, SAP Retail, SAP FICA, and also SAP CI. This particular session has been designed to provide a basic information on SAP CI solution, the solution architecture, the purpose of this particular module in the context of SAP solution for business. And the session has been designed to provide information for the people who would like to upgrade their skills into SAP CI. The participants in the training program would ideally include currently practicing consultants in SAP FICA who would like to upgrade their skills into SAP CI, or SAP FICO consultants who would like to upgrade their skills into FICA and also the Convergent Invoicing. Also, broadly speaking, it is intended to provide the required information for the consultants who are working in the BRIM suite. So the presentation has been made covering the overall purpose of the SAP CI, not going in depth in each and every area, but provide the basic information. The training program is intended to provide the participants to basically get the required skills into customization, a complete end-to-end business process overview, and also customizations wherever it is required. So let us start with a brief introduction about the SAP CI itself. As the name suggests, SAP CI Convergent Invoicing is a module which is intended to provide specially designed applications for billing and invoicing. So on the whole, SAP CI has been divided into two main application components. One is the SAP Convergent Billing and other is Convergent Invoicing. Billing and invoicing are very commonly used in various solutions in SAP. I would like to take into account two such solutions: SAP Sales and Distribution and SAP Utilities. Although billing and invoicing is common in any solution where the revenue generation happens. So from that context, what is the role of billing and invoicing in SAP solution? So let us talk in briefly about how does it happen in the sales and distribution and then in utilities. So that gives us an idea how SAP CI is different from these two. Okay, that's the whole idea in order to get some kind of comparison. Coming to sales and distribution, billing happens to be the last application component in SAP SD module. As we know, SAP Sales and Distribution module has been divided into basically four main applications. One is basically sales application, and then you have the shipping process, then you have transportation and billing. Any process that starts in sales and distribution eventually ends with the billing. Billing is an umbrella term. Between billing and FI, there is no other module. Billing happens to be the last application. In the billing module, we create various documents as billing documents. These billing documents could be invoice against delivery, invoice against order. Sometimes it could be credit memo, debit memo, or cancellation of invoice. We can also include profile invoice, intercompany invoice, etc. So basically, it is a process where we generate the invoice, which is to be presented to the customer for the payment collection. And it has data which has to be transferred to financial accounting. So basically, the purpose of invoice is to present the amount what is to be collected from the customer. So it's a legal document. Now, as far as the ST billing is concerned, The basic purpose is traditional product-based billing. Basically, whenever we talk about sales and distribution, as a company, we are selling certain products. These products could be material in nature, physical material, or a service. So the entire process is based on the product-based kind of scenario. And normally it is applied in manufacturing sector, retail, wholesale industry. Although retail, we are selling it to a large number of consumers, when the actual sales will happen at the store level, it is recorded in the POS. This POS data is then sent to SAP system, where it will create a billing document in the background and then post to financial accounting. Otherwise, where the company is doing the regular sales and distribution, the business model is B2B. One business is selling the products and services to another business. This can be part of SAP standard ECC solution or S/4HANA. Now, broadly speaking, you can say billing is an event or application which is based on either a sales order or a delivery. It supports standard invoice like delivery against order, delivery against, basically order or invoice against delivery or credit memo or debit memo. The pricing is one of the important activity in the sales and distribution. It is something like a basic function which happens initially in sales order, then gets copied into billing document. This pricing activity can be called as rating when it comes to SAP CI solution. And basically it is based on a condition technique. When the invoice is prepared in the sales and distribution module under the billing module, system will do automatic account determination, revenue account determination, tax account determination. Reconciliation account is fixed. So basically, when the invoice is saved, in the background, the system will transfer data to FI, posting the GL accounts into FI level, and also accounting document is prepared. Now coming to SAP Utilities, utility company is providing basic utility services to consumers. The business model is B2C. That means we are, as a utility company, providing utility services to large number of consumers, which would be in millions. And as a company, it is providing distribution of basic utility services that include electricity, gas, and water. Now, here the billing model is based on the consumption. As a company, we are providing utility services. Consumers are continuously consuming the utility services, and you have to record at some point of time in future how much consumption has happened for their particular consumption area. This is normally done through a meter. Meter will record on a continuous basis the consumption data, and we take the meter reading at some particular point of time. The difference of the two meter readings will give us the consumption. So what we are building is a consumption data. Okay. So this is basically a consumption-based model what we use here. As far as the rating is concerned, the billing module will take care of the rating activity. It is based on the rate structure. We design the required rate structure in the configuration of the billing process. So billing document is prepared. Now, billing is a separate application in ISU. Invoicing is a separate application. Whereas in sales and distribution, both are same only. But in ISU, you have got distinct two separate applications. Billing is a separate transaction. Invoicing is a separate transaction. The basic purpose of billing document is to record various line items. These line items include consumption amounts or surcharges or discount. Each item is a revenue amount, and then it is going to be transferred to GL accounting system. But compared to sales and distribution, in utility solution, we did not directly post any data into financial accounting. Once the invoice is prepared, it is going to post a sub-ledger accounting document. So FICA provides a sub-ledger accounting system like a gateway. We can never transfer any data to FI directly. It has to be routed through FICA. Basically, a contract accounting document is prepared. Whether you prepare an invoice or whether you do clearing, initially document is posted in FICA. Then we summarize the data at the FICA level, and this aggregated summarized data will be sent to financial accounting. The basic purpose of FICA is to support large volume of data processing, because if we take utility company with about 30 or 40 million consumers, we have to record invoices for all these consumers. We cannot possibly do so in one day. So every day becomes the activity where we do certain meter readings, billing and invoicing. But still, it is a very large amount of data that need to process upfront and then transfer data to a financial accounting. So you cannot transfer data for each and every invoice into financial accounting. It has to be condensed, aggregated at the FICA level, and then consolidated data can be sent to financial accounting. Incidentally, we use a similar concept also in SAP CI. In SAP CI also, we take into account of contract accounting module. And that is also large volume data handling system. We are going to record regularly large amount of invoices preparation, which are to be transferred into financial accounting. So now coming to SAP CI, what is the core difference between the earlier two models and this particular, solution? Let us talk about SAP CI as an application. SAP CI is not a separate solution. It is something embedded within the contract accounting module. That means we have the FICA as a core module. In FICA module, we have what is called the convergent invoicing. But it also does not mean that convergent invoicing is a standard solution in every FICA. For example, when you look into a SAP utility solution, there you may not find convergent invoicing, although now it can be added. But if I just go to the SAP ISO solution, there we'll find FICA will be available, but then it doesn't have the contract accounting, it doesn't have the, okay. So let's have a look at it. Then we look into solution in FICA where it is part of the financial accounting, contract accounting. So let me go to IMG and then we will explore the FICA module. As you know, FICA is a software accounting system in finance accounting. Instead of using the standard accounts payable, we go for the contract accounts payable and payable. In this, we have various configuration areas that include the organizational units, basic functions, business transactions, integration. Okay. In integration, we have the FICA integration with the financial accounting and also sales and distribution. Now let us take a look at a solution which has the FICA, but which supports the CI, convergent invoicing. Here also, we have got financial accounting and then contract accounts payable and payable. And here we will see convergent invoicing. Okay. So convergent invoicing is a separate application which is part of basically FICA. It is not a separate solution altogether. It is something tightly integrated with the FICA, and it is within the FICA that we have to configure. Okay. So this is one core important information. As far as the FICA is concerned, it is a cross-application, industry-specific software accounting system. SAP FICA operates in various SAP solutions that include SAP ISU, telecom, insurance, media, public sector. Industry-neutral solution, like for example, the company is using standard SAP sales and distribution model, but instead of using the standard accounts receivable, which are based on the customer accounts, they manage contract accounts for posting the receivable. Certainly, it means to say that they are operating on a large volume of data on a day-to-day basis. They need to post huge number of invoices into finance accounting, and for that they use the contract accounting. Then we have the BRIM suite, where FICA is also the software accounting system. Now, depending on the FICA where it is required, SAP CI also will become part of the FICA. Like in telecom, you may have it, or in public sector, or in media, and certainly in BRIM, even in the industry neutral. Okay. Now, when you are going to use SAP CA, let us try to understand what are the organizational details required in the solution, because the organizational data provides a basic framework for recording the various master data, and also transaction data. Based on the master data and organization data, we are going to record the transactions. As far as SAP CI is concerned, whatever is the prerequisite for FICA, same prerequisites are satisfied for the CI also. Basically, from FI perspective, FICA perspective, company code is required. Company code provides the general ledger accounting system, and under the general ledger accounting system, we have what is called the contract accounts receivable and payable, and within the FICA, we have the convergent invoicing. Apart from the company code, because you're going to produce an invoice, it could be sales and distribution invoice, for instance. So we can have the necessary units in SD module in terms of the sales org and distribution channel, shipping point for delivery processing. And as far as the product is concerned, we require the plant and division. Essentially, plant is going to be highest logistic unit under which you create the material master. Even when you are working with these subscription orders, we basically create a material master with the plant as a reference. Then it is managed as a subscription product for using in the subscription order. Okay. Now coming to the SAP CI master data, the consumer is mapped here in the form of a business partner. We are not going to use actively customer record because it is not based on the customer account. We are not using the standard account receivable. We are using rather FICA. For FICA perspective, we require two very important master data objects. BP to represent the consumer in our system. This business partner should be maintained in the role of contract partner. Then only we will be in a position to create the contract account. In utility, we have the third master data, which is called contract. But here, in other solutions, contract is not mandatory. Although we have something called contract, but in some other terminology, but for the business process, it is not a mandatory object. So BP represents the consumer to whom the company is providing the services. The business partner doesn't have any accounting perspective, so you maintain a contract account. Contract account will be able to handle all the accounting related data with which invoice can be prepared in the system, posting can happen into sub-ledger accounting system, and also clearing of the open items can be done through FICA. Here we have the flexibility. One business partner will have certainly one contract account. If required, for one BP can maintain multiple contract accounts. Contract account is the basis on which the open items are managed in the sub-ledger accounting system. Now here we have a product which is called subscription product. Especially if you are working in BIM suite, we are going to deal with the products which are called subscription products based on which the subscription orders are created. Then we have a provider contract. That means when you prepare the subscription order, we will have a subscription contract which is distributing the provider contract into SAP CI system. Earlier, we used to have separate solutions like in BIM suite. We used to have CRM as a separate solution, then ECC or S4HANA, and then SAP ECC, convergent charging. But subsequently in the S4HANA, now we have the service also part of the S4HANA. So CRM part is not there. But whatever products used to originate from the CRM are very much handled in the S4HANA itself, in the ECC or S4HANA. And even the subscription order is created with the configuration they have to do in the service module in the SAP S4HANA. So provider contract is an important agreement between the business partner and the consumer. It records certain important data like, basically billing cycle, discount structure, any such things which are required. And it is required in some cases to map some data. Okay. So we'll see in future where the provider contract can be used from the CI perspective. Coming to business process, what are the core business process that can be handled in the SAP CI? Now, broadly speaking, you can say the entire set of business process within CI can be divided into data management in the form of billable items. Okay, we have the billable items. Basically, SAP CI system will provide facility to receive the billable items data from various other sources. Once the data is received, it is stored in the SAP CI system in various tables, and it will ensure data is maintained in a proper manner so that it becomes available for the billing purpose. So the billable items have the status. Only the items which are having the status as billable can be used to create the billing document. So if you look into SAP CI solution application mapping, we will go to accounting and then finance accounting, contract accounts, receivable and payable, and then you have the convergent invoicing. In convergent invoicing, you can see billable items. This is the most important application component within the SAP CI. This is the place where you manage the billable items. That means billable items are probably originated in some other solutions which are imported into SAP CI. We'll see the solution architecture maybe in the next few slides, but we can also upload the billable items directly into SAP CI. You can do uploading or even data entry for a single billable item, but billable items are necessary, then only you can proceed to do the billing process. So billable item management is one very important application component in CI. Then you have the actual billing process where you create the billing documents. Billing and invoicing are two separate applications in SAP CI. Billing documents are leading to invoice orders. Only when the invoice order is available, we'll be able to create the invoices. Again here, when we talk about the billing documents that are originated within the SAP CI, or even billing documents processed in some other solutions. Like for instance, we have a sales and distribution billing document which you want to post into SAP CI, or a utility billing solution, billing document or invoice which you want to port it to SAP CI. Or it could be a billing document generated within the SAP CI. So there is a categorization of the billing documents. So billing is the next important application. Then comes the third important application, invoice processing. This is naturally the final process where we are going to combine one or many billing documents into invoice. And as usual, invoice is not posted into financial accounting. Rather, it is going to post a document in FICA. A further accounting document is prepared. Then, end of the day, we consolidate all these FICA documents and send it to FI. So, looking at the basically list of business process, I have broken down into smaller ones. Data collection is the upfront activity, what happens at the initial stage. That means we have the data, which is basically about the recording of the consumption activities, the events which are leading to consumption. These consumption data are sourced from the external systems, and it is routed through a rating system, SAP Convergent Charging, which will act as a rating system, or it can be done through legacy rating systems. Okay. Rating is a process where you apply the price or using particular formula. It can be simple or complex formula. That means we are doing the pricing calculation for the consumption items. And then we are also going to assign the information about the business partner contract account. So it becomes rated item. Okay. The rated items are called billable items. Okay. So basically, rating activity will provide the billable items into SAP CI. For that matter, we can even initiate the rating process in SAP CI itself. Okay. In certain cases where we expect the rating to involve very simple calculations, we can even carry out in the SAP CI. So there's a discussion on this in future. But rating is basically a kind of consumption item which has been rated, where it is having the value item. You can say rated item is a value item, and it is presented in the SAP CI in the form of a billable item. So we have the billable item management, storage of billable items, and billable items have got various statuses. We will look into the statuses in future when we do the actual training. But one important status is it is billable status, so that it can be taken into billing document. Then the actual billing process, and based on the billing process, billing documents are created. These billing documents are used in preparing the invoice. Okay. So invoicing is the final activity or a process in SAP EI. Then it goes for printing. But when the invoice is prepared in the system and saved, in the background, the corresponding further accounting document is posted. So apart from these standard process, we can also include here convergent invoicing triggered rating. That means instead of getting rating done from the external source, we can carry out here itself in this system, but not always it is possible. But we'll see the scenario where this could be a very useful addition in the SAP CI solution capability. Then we'll talk about agreements and discounts, which also part of the business process. Then as usual, whenever you do any billing or invoicing, sometimes, due to some unavoidable reasons, you have to take up the reversals. Reversals are part of the business, although it should not be done on a regular basis, because then it will have a question on the standardization of the process, but it is not something that you cannot avoid also. As and when necessary, the billing reversals have to happen, and also invoice reversals also have to happen. How to handle them, you will see in the CI. They are also part of the business process. Okay. So basically, I've listed here some of the important applications or processes within the SAP CI. To summarize, billable item management, then billing and invoicing. These are the core three main applications or business process in the SAP CI solution. Now let us take a look at the SAP CI architecture. So what you see here, SAP Convergent Invoicing, which is basically part of SAP FI, SAP FICA, is within the SAP ERP. That means it is a solution inbuilt in SAP ERP or S4HANA. As we saw just now, it is a module under the FICA module. And under this module, we do billing and invoicing. And SAP CI is integrated fully with the SAP Contract Accounting, that is basically FICA module. So here we are talking about the consumption items, which are basically required for getting the billable items. These are converted into proper, regulated manner in the mediation solution, and they are sent to rating system, rating and charging. Like for example, you have the SAP CC, convergent charging, where the rating and charging activity will happen, or rating could be happening from a legacy system. So basically, these rating and charging system will transform standardized service events into price transaction. So pricing is one of the important transaction, which is basically applying the logic behind the prices calculation using particular formula, and then based on that, item is rated. Okay, these rated items are received into SAP CI system, where we have the storage facility, storage and processing of the rated events coming from the SAP Convergent Charging, and then it will ensure that these items are available in a manner in which they can be taken forward for the billing process. That's why the status will come into picture. Basically, billing process involves creating billing documents based on the billable items. There are different categories of billable items also. We'll see what are the possible billable items in future. And invoicing is an application where we create the actual invoice, and based on the billing documents, what we have already got in the SAP CI, and invoice is posted into FICA. Okay. Basically, when you post a document in FICA, it will update the account receivable at the contract account level, and it will post the sub accounting document. This open item will be used in the lifecycle activity in future in terms of clearing the open items or calculating interest amount, various other activities, what can happen for the open item. Till it is fully cleared, what are the possible lifecycle activity will happen in FICA, that comes under the FICA domain. Okay, so that's what we saw in FICA normally. Now we come to SAP CI, broader understanding about the architecture. So pricing, rating, charging is a separate solution which comes under SAP CC. The usage events are transferred to SAP CC and rating will happen. Now we'll talk about the billing module in the SAP CI, billable item management. We have initially received the billable items, which may be raw in the sense they are not available in a manner in which you can use them for billing document. Okay, These raw items are having some data which is not fully ready or fully not maintained. Okay, some data will be missing. You can say insufficient data. It does not qualify as a billable item unless you correct it and release it. Okay, it cannot become the billable item. So raw items are received sometimes, which need to be looked into, and then basically convert them into billable items. Only when they become billable items, they move into billing document. And when the billable items are billed in the billing document, they attain the status of billed. That means item has been billed. Okay. The billing is a module where you create the billing document. The entire billing module is built on some important billing engine considerations, selection of the billable items, grouping, and aggregation. Okay. This is the most important contribution in terms of logic building the billing engine. That means we have the billable items available, but we need to select them. Okay. The selection will take into consideration of the selection criteria. Okay. So that we select the billable items which are of the similar nature, so that you can group them, then aggregate the total value, and then present it to the invoice. So one of the important contribution as far as the billing is concerned, we are aggregating the data for the billable items. Different billable items can be moved into billing document. That's why it's called convergent billing. For example, in billing document, I can take into consideration billable items which are of different types, but they can be billed under one single billing document. Okay, so that's why it's called convergent billing. Likewise, also when you go to create invoice, it can combine different types of documents. For example, billing documents originated in the CI, or a sales and distribution invoice, a utility invoice. All such documents can be combined into one single invoice. So as far as the consumer is concerned, we provide one single invoice. It becomes very easy for them to look into the amount what they have to pay and why that amount has been calculated on what basis. Okay. So in terms of presentation to consumer, convergent invoicing becomes more professional, and in terms of basically combining various services into one single invoice for the payment collection. And this invoice is posted to FICA for the updating the receivable in the system. Now, let us talk a little bit more on the billable items. Billable items are like basis on which the billing documents are created. These billable items can occur in different service industries. Understanding the nature and origin of the billable items will give us the complexity of the billing in such industry. Basically, why SAP CI came into picture. We already had SAP billing, but in place of SAP SD billing or in case of utility billing, why SAP CI came into picture. The billing model is completely different here. It's not either product based completely or consumption based, maybe combination of them. It's a hybrid in nature. Okay, it could be subscription based. Okay, so we can consider all such events which can have different models on which the billing has to happen. So because of this, the SAP CI billing will become very flexible in terms of processing different types of billable items. Now let us understand some examples of billable item. Let's say in telecom industry, we have a telephone call made between the two telephone numbers. This is an event which will tell us what is the duration of call. And then when you apply the price, it will become the charged item, basically a value item. It becomes a billable item. Okay. Let's say on peak duration call made for 5 minutes. What is the price? Off peak duration call made. What is the price? And then you get the amount. Okay. So these are the rated items, which are basically called billable items. So here it is something to do with the consumption. Okay. Postal services where a particular postal department is doing the shipment of the parcel item. So whatever the postal shipment costs are there, prices are there, that becomes a billable item. Okay. In addition to the parcel shipment, the company may charge some amount for the insurance. So insurance becomes a separate billable item, and the parcel shipment price will become a separate billable item. Let's say there is a company which provides cloud services. Basically, it is providing the services in terms of storage of data, that which provides a kind of a service where we can store physically our data, and charges are based on the actual usage. Okay, so how much usage we are doing over a period of time, that can be billed. So it is a usage based billing. The same company provides various subscriptions. Like for example, these subscriptions could be for using the workspace. These are going to be billed on a recurring basis. Okay, that means every month we have a subscription price fixed for the availing the particular service. So it is going to be invoiced for the consumer. Okay, or a company provides, let's say, internet-based entertainment services like streaming the music or streaming the movies like OTT, or let's say, for example, this company would like to have the consumers come onto the board by subscribing various subscription charges, which can be yearly billing or monthly billing. So it's a recurring activity. Okay, here we are talking about the billing, which is recurring activity. That means we are not talking about the supply of product, neither consumption, but a subscription based billing. Okay, the company provides ebooks and music for download. Here again talking about the consumption. Okay, so looking at this, you can say the business model is hybrid in nature. Okay, it is not purely product, neither consumption, but it is mix of them, or it could be including basically subscription charges. Okay, so based on this kind of understanding, we can say a billable item is a transaction which is priced to be assigned to business partner in the form of invoice. That means billable item is a charged rated event which has to be charged to a particular customer in the invoice. SAP CI will receive this billable item from the source system and stores them, and the processing will happen. For example, 10 songs are downloaded and rated at rupees 100 assigned to BP and the contract account in the invoice. So this is the consumption activity, and we are recording it as the event and then apply the pricing data, the billable item, which is moved into billing document, and then finally invoice. Billable items can be broadly categorized into three main categories. Billable items could be usage-based transaction, like in the case of telephone system, or let's say data services which are used, okay, on usage-based. It could be recurring charges, for example, subscription recurring charges, or it could be one-time charge, okay, activation fees, for example, okay. The subscriber has to pay some amount for one-time activation. It's a one-time event, okay. Recurring charge is something that you do on a periodical basis based on the billing cycle. Usage-based transaction is what are the usages happened over a period of time. That is what we are going to bill. Okay. So this is a basic difference between SD billing and utility billing and the SAP CI billing. Now, what are the sources of the billable items? Suppose you are looking into a CI system, billable items are available in our system. Okay. But what are the various sources? As we mentioned before, these rated items could be received from the external system like SAP CC. We have a provision to manually enter or upload the billable items. So if you go to the Convergent Invoicing screen, you can see billable item. You can see enter and change manually, okay? Or you can upload. That means we have the data available in a particular format. SAP will help us to create the format in which the data can be prepared and it can be uploaded, okay? So this will directly update the billable items in our system, okay? Of course, if the data is completely given while preparing and updating the data, the items becomes billable. You will have status billable. Okay. So basically what we're saying, the billable items are something that can be entered manually, uploaded, or received from the source system, external system. Sometimes billable items are created from billing plan. Okay. You can have a billing plan based on a subscription order. That means billing plan will generate the billable items on a regular basis. That means this item is available for billing straight away. Okay. Or you can also use the facility available in SAP CI where we upload the consumption items and then we have configured the rating in the system. Using the consumption data and the rating group, we will do the rating of the items. So we are getting the billable items directly in the SAP CI system. This is also supported. Like for instance, here you can see we have something called consumption items. Okay. These consumption items can be uploaded in the system, and then once they are available, we can execute the rating. That means instead of getting the rating done from the external system like SAP CC, we can carry out this rating. But usually this rating is done for simple rating calculations. It is not very complex. Like all the complexity what we handle in CC cannot be possible here. Okay. Here the rating is triggered based on a function model program, and there will be a rating group will be available where you have the particular model program to apply the logic in terms of calculating the rated items. Okay. So you can even make use of this facility where we upload the consumption data, execute the rating, which will result into billable items. Okay. So basically, I've listed here some possible, way how the billable items are available in the CI system. Okay. So now, as far as coming to the configuration, we will take into look of all the areas of configuration. But just as a slide I'm listing here, billable items in order to be maintained in the system, to receive and store them in the system, we have to configure something called billable item class. Okay, this is the most important configuration to begin with. Unless billable item class are defined and then activated, maintained with all the interfaces, we cannot store the billable items. So this is the most important area of configuration in the beginning, because ultimately we require the billable items. Okay, but billable items have to be received and stored in the system. For that, we have to configure the billable item class. So we'll look into that IMG activity where it is done separately. SAP billable item class. Let me give some brief introduction about the billable item class. If you go to the area of configuration, you can use FICA IMG transaction. So when you go to Convergent Invoicing, we have the basic functions where you have the billable item classes. Okay. The billable item class is the first very important configuration you do where you maintain billable item classes. SAP will not give any billable item classes to use. Generally, class objects are known to us in various solutions. Like class is something which has a technical information. For example, when you create a condition type in SD pricing, we have condition class. Based on the class, we know whether a condition type will behave like a price or discount or surcharge or a tax. Okay. Likewise here, when you configure the billable item class, it will have lots of technical data based on which the billable items can be received from the external source and stored in the system. Okay. So when you select the maintain billable class, for example, after configuration, suppose I take one of the billing class as XLNP, you can see there is something called interfaces. SAP provides various interfaces. We can select the among the choice what interfaces are required. Okay, unless some interfaces are not selected, we cannot store some important data about the variable items. Okay, for example, here you can see external provider contract reference are selected, master agreement. Suppose when the billing happens, I want to calculate the discounts. That means I have to select the interface, discount agreement. Okay. Or let's say, for example, billing quantity, usage period. All these are individual interfaces. Each interface has its own documentation, which will give us the basically the importance of that particular interface class. So how to use them, we'll see in the actual configuration. Now, billable item class has to be defined. It has to be activated. Then generate the components. Okay. When you generate the components, the tables are also created. For each billable item status, we have tables. Okay. These tables are going to store the actual billable items. Okay. So that is technical thing what you can see when you do actually work in the configuration class. But this is just a overview what I'm going to present. So selection of customer fields, we can add custom fields, management of billed item tables. So all this part is handled in the basically billable item class. Okay. This is the first important configuration. We do it in the system. Interface components, just now you saw, These components are given in the SAP to use them. Certain billable item classes need certain interface components. Unless the components are added and activated, we cannot use that billable item class for storing the billable item. So a initial understanding about each and every interface component is necessary. Okay. SAP provides the documentation, and based on that, you can understand whether a particular interface component is required or not. Okay. And you must make sure that, billable interface components are added. Suppose we miss out to add some interface component, you can come back and add it later, but you have to regenerate the components. Basically, that activity has to be done. That is a part of, change what can happen in the future. Now, billable items structure has various fields which are required in the billable item, like accounting information, date of origin, what is the billable item type? Is it like a fixed charge or recurring charge, or let's say consumption item? And then organizational data, sales organization, distribution channel, what is the amount, billable item amount? Then is it relevant for print? Is it relevant for the print relevant, posting relevant? All these are selected, and then contract account master data required for posting the open item. So just an example of some fields that will be mapped in the billable item structure. Okay, this structure is something available from the billable item class, what to configure. Now let us talk about the SAP CI billing itself process. As I mentioned above in an earlier slide, the billing engine performs some very important activities. First, the data selection. Okay, let's say, for example, we have various billable items available in our system. Okay, but first system will do data selection. That means certain billable items are selected so that they can be put into a billing group actually. Okay, like say, for example, we have billable items which are pertaining to consumption. Okay, so consumptions have happened over a period of month, but all the items which are basically representing the same type of consumption can be collected together and then aggregated. Okay. So during the data selection, system will select the billable items for the billing purpose. Okay. You can define the selection criteria for data selection. So this is another very important set of configuration we do under billable item management. Okay. So if you go to billable item management, here we define basically something called sub process. Define sub process. You require at least one sub process for billing document to be created. This sub process is assigned to billing class. Then you define various billable item types. Okay, and these billable item types are assigned to the sub process. For example, billable items you want to differentiate. On what basis? Basically based on the types of billable items. For example, I have ZSL1 as the billable item type, which represents one-time charges, okay? Or ZSL2 recurring charges, or ZSL3 usage charges. That means billable item is basically based on billable item type. Like for example, based on the recurring charge, we can say that is the billable item which I'm going to use in billing document for every month invoicing. Okay. Consumption charges are basically coming under ZSL3. That means under this particular billable item, we have various consumption data which we aggregate and then calculate the amount. Okay. That's the basically total amount. So this is the logic what we have in the billable item management. And also here, we have some very important integrations happened with the FICA billable item transfer. Okay. As you know, in FICA, we have concept of posting area. Okay. Account determination will happen based on the posting area. But for the SAP CI, we have got some special, posting areas. Okay. For example, here we have got define the account assignment for billable item. This is posting area 8120. Okay. Where we have the sub process defined in SAP CI, billable item type, and the company code. For example, I will say SLNT is my billing sub process, under which I have three billable item types, ZSL1, ZLS2, ZLS3. We are going to assign them to company code and the division. Okay. Additionally, you can also assign the segment and then profit center. This is the additional data. Then you also maintain main transactions, sub-transactions for the sub-process. These main transactions, sub-transactions are defined in the FICA. Okay, that means as usual in FICA, we maintain under the basic functions the definition of the main transaction, sub-transaction. Main transactions are required for determination of the reconciliation account. Sub-transactions are required for the revenue account determination. So this particular combination of the main and sub-transactions are assigned to the sub-process and the billable item type. Okay. Again, here we divide the sub-transactions into debit sub-transactions and credit sub-transaction. For example, here ZLS1 is my billing sub-process. Sub-process is SLNP. Under this, I have got the three billable item types. SLM1 is the main transaction. SLS1 is the debit sub-transaction, and then credit. Okay. So these are actually originated in the FICA module, and then you assign them here. Okay. Then you have defined main and sub-transactions for the item of the product assignment. So different posting areas will come into picture, which will help us to fix the account determination. Okay. Like in traditional SAP FICA, we have EK01 and EK02. In EK01, we maintain the reconciliation account determination. EK02, sub-transaction, revenue account determination. Tax account determination is anyway separate, but instead of EK01, EK02, we have got the particular transactions here, which you integrate FICA with the billing process. Okay. So this is what we saw. Selection criteria, data selection. Now, selection criteria aggregation will all come in the billing configuration. Okay, SIM billing process. So SAP CI billing process is built on grouping, logic. Okay. Grouping into billing unit. Okay. That means all the items can be grouped into one billing unit, sometimes more than one billing unit. For each billing unit, system will prepare one billing document. Now, if you go to the billing configuration, here you can see billing. In billing, we have to configure the billing process. Okay. Define billing process. Let's say, for example, I have a billing process here as SLNP. In this billing process, we include some very important selection components, sub-process. Here we have added a selection variant, grouping variant, and the billing type. Okay. What is this selection variant? Selection variant means select the items which are similar. Okay. For example, if you go to the selection variant, okay. If you go to selection variant, SLNP is the selection variant. If you see selection variant, assign the billable item class. That means you are assigning to billable item class, SLNP. Assign the billable item types. We have identified three types of billable items. That is one-time charges, recurring charges, usage charge. Then assign the source transaction type. The source transaction type means when the billing group is prepared, it can combine these items into one group. Okay. But the billable items belong to a particular source type. Okay. For example, internal assignment source transaction ID, or let's say we have got billable items created because of a billing plan, or I initiated the CI rating in the SAP CI system itself, SAP CI rated item, or it could be a discount amount which is calculated, which is again in the CI system. So unless the source transaction type is put under the selection type, it will not be able to select the item. Okay. So selection criteria is fixed here in the selection type, which is a selection variant. Then we have the grouping variant. Define the grouping variant for the billable item. So here our grouping variant is SLNP. This is having certain characteristics on which grouping can happen. Okay. Assign the grouping characteristics. Now, depending on the values what are there for the grouping characteristics, one or many billing units can be created. For example, if some billable items belong to one company code only, then one billing unit is enough. Okay. But certain billable items belong to two company codes, then we cannot put them onto one billing unit. So it will create two billing units. That means two billing documents. Or let's say we have got three sub-processes. Some billable items belong to one sub-process and some belongs to a second one, third one. So it has got three sub-processes. So naturally, it cannot put all the items into one billing unit. It will create three billing units. And for each billing unit, it will create one billing document. So you can add the group characteristics based on the available characteristics. So if you go to assign the characteristics, you can do the assignment of the characteristic new entry. Okay. New entry, you can select the grouping characteristics. For example, here, these are the various characteristics. Okay. VTRFE is basically provider contract. Okay. That means we are basically grouping them based on the provider contract. Okay. So this is next important thing. Selection variant, selection of items, and grouping according to certain criteria. This is used in billing module. Similar kind of logic also will happen in invoicing. The system groups the selected billable items together into billing unit. For each contract account, multiple billing units can be created for each contract account. Like for example, we saw just now, there are three sub-processes. Naturally, for one contract account, we have got billable items belonging to three, sub-processes. And for each sub-process, the selection will happen, aggregation will happen, and then grouping will happen into a particular billing unit. Billing in the contract account receivable and payable creates one billing document for each billing unit. When you say contract account receivable billing means convergent billing. Okay. We define the criteria that are used to create the billing units in grouping variants. Okay. Just now we saw that criteria like company code, currency, okay, or let's say sub-process, or provider contract. These are all the various characteristics. Aggregation of billable item. System includes the selected billable items of a billing unit into billing document. More so, the billable items are summarized in the billing document items. The individual items that belong to summarization are linked to billing document. For example, let's say, for example, you have got 10 consumption items of a billable item type, okay? Then these are aggregated into one single value, okay? For example, let's say over a period of time, we calculate how many songs have been downloaded, okay? That means all these are consumption items. You have a billable item type. You will aggregate them into one single item, okay? System writes the billing document created for the billing unit and individual billed items into database, okay? So these databases are created according to billable item class, okay? So basically, the class is very important. That will help us to create the corresponding database tables in which the billable items are stored and the billing documents also stored. Now comes the SAP CI invoicing. That means billing is a separate activity, invoicing is a separate invoicing. Now, under invoicing, our consideration now shift to billing documents, okay? In the billing, our consideration on the billable items. We have different types of billable items, but you can merge them into one single billing. That's the theme of the convergent billing. That means, for example, we have billable items which belong to, let's say, one-time charge, billable item pertaining to, let's say, recurring charge, or billable item pertaining to consumption. Now, instead of creating three billing documents, we can create one single billing document. That is all about the convergent billing, where you converge different billable items into one single billing document. Likewise here, for the contract account, we may have more than one type of billing documents available. These billing documents can be aggregated into one particular invoice, okay? So the same logic here, selection and grouping, that's the most important activity. Let's say, for example, you have two billing documents available in the system for the contract account. They can be put into the invoice. These billing documents could be documents which are created in the SAP CI module, okay? But you also have for the contract account a SD invoice, okay? SD invoice is created in the SD cycle, order, delivery, billing, or let's say order related billing. In the standard SD process, what happens? There are three possibilities. Suppose you are not using FICA, standard account receivable, we create the order, delivery, invoice is prepared, immediately posting will happen to finance accounting, where customer number will become the customer account, receivable account. But suppose you're using FICA in the SD process, then what happens? When the invoice is prepared, it is not posting directly data into financial accounting. Corresponding to SD invoice, a FICA document is posted. Then end of the day, we are aggregating such FICA documents and sending it to financial accounting. But when you're using SD invoice routed through our FICA module in the CI module, then what will happen? Invoice is prepared, but it's not posting data into FICA itself. It is taken into the basically what you call the convergent invoicing module. That means invoice is prepared, but not yet posted into FICA. That posting will happen in FICA through the CI invoicing. Okay, so that is a configuration area. Whether I can post SD invoice directly into FICA, or it has to be posted into the convergent invoicing module. Okay, then post into FICA. So that we'll see in the configuration. So here you can see in the invoicing document, we have billing document number 1, details, billing document 2, then SD invoice. But apart from this, it can also consider items which have been generated before this invoice. Okay, there could be some open items which were there before this invoice creation, for which dunning charges would have been calculated. Okay, or some interest calculation would have been calculated. Those items also can be added into our invoice preparation, and based on that, the FICA document is posted. Okay, so basically, when the FICA document is posted, when invoice is prepared, it can present not only the current items, but also some items which have been posted in the past, but they are still open. Okay, let's say I posted invoice in the last month. There is an open item which is not yet cleared by the consumer. Okay, in the present month, I'm preparing a new invoice. Okay, not only it presents the items of this month invoice, but also it will reflect what are the open items still not paid from the previous transactions. Okay, so it gives a better focused attention of the consumer in terms of what is the amount they have to pay. Okay, so this is one important thing what you can see in invoicing module. PCI invoices are created by including structured billing information from the billing documents. Okay, for example, we have got billing documents created in the SAP CI itself. Okay, like for example, telco billing or consumption billing, or let's say BRIM billing. Okay, these are documents created in the SAP CI environment. Okay, including structured billing information from the SD invoice. That means in the same system, we are also carrying out some SD business process where invoice has to be prepared. That billing document is also put into SAP CI invoicing. Or for example, the SAP utility system, standalone SAP utility system, when the invoice is prepared, it's going to post directly data into FICA. Okay, but here you don't want to do it. Apart from the regular SAP ISU invoice, you also have some invoices which have to be mapped into convergent invoicing. Okay, that means when the utility solution invoice is prepared, it is not posted yet to FICA. That particular billing document is available in the system. It is clubbed with the other billing documents which are originated from the other sources. It could be even SD billing document. Okay, so basically, convergent invoicing is looking at the possibility of converging different types of billing documents into one single invoice. Instead of preparing separate invoice for each billing document, we can put them into one single invoice. That's the advantage of convergent invoicing. Now, it can also be including some additional information. For example, just now I said dunning charges or late payment charges. These are for the earlier open items. Okay, some open items were there where dunning has happened. That dunning charge can be added here in this invoice, or some interest charges. Even if we take in the standard utility solution, we have a provision. Suppose I'm not using CI, in utility we can configure that aspect. That means when the interest amount is calculated, interest amount can be calculated for a specific contract account in FICA, or it can be done as a mass processing. It can be initiated in the dunning, or it can be included in the invoicing part. That means when the invoice is prepared upfront in SAP ISU, it is preparing invoice for present consumption. Okay, but it can also consider to calculate the interest on the open items which have not been cleared. That means interest calculation is triggered in the SAP ISU invoicing. Likewise here, you can initiate the dunning charge or late payment charges. Late payment charges are nothing but the interest charges into our particular invoice in the CI, including historical items. This is what I mentioned just now. There may be some open items which may be still pending for the payment. they can be added into present invoice. Execute various invoicing functions. That means just like in ISU invoice, in ISU you have got clarification at the billing level, invoicing level. Clarification means validation of the invoice amount. Okay, that means you maintain some limits based on the historical figures for the contract account. Our invoice amount is not supposed to exceed certain maximum value, not to go below certain minimum value. Okay, so there's a kind of max and minimum value. As long as invoice value is sitting within these particular limits, it is available for posting into FICA. Otherwise, it may be like basically clarified. Okay, clarification list means we need to clarify the situation and then release. Okay, applying discounts for external individual customer discounts that are in the contract account level. Now, discounts are calculated as per the billing total base value, but they are actually added in the invoicing level. Okay, that means once invoice, when it is prepared, it is going to calculate the discount based on the discount key, where the billable item value is taken into consideration. That is basically base value. Okay, preparing invoices and creating the print document. Basically, when invoices are prepared, it has to communicate to the basically container for printing the invoices. So that will happen. Creating posting document in FICA. Now, these documents can also be processed by invoicing as part of clearing control. Okay, for example, the clearing payments on account of receivable from the invoicing. Okay, that means directly when you post the invoice, it goes into account maintenance with the credit posting to be adjusted with the debit items. Like account maintenance, we can do directly in FICA, but it can be triggered from the invoice posting. Okay, so this particular aspect you can see when you actually work in the system. Okay, so here it is a presentation of the same thing what we told. INVBI is a document category. What we have the billing document created in the CI system. Okay, so we have got one item number for one billing document, second billing document, third billing document. VBRK is basically sales document item. ACTIT, open items, which are to be present in the invoice, INVBI. So basically here also selection of the items will happen and then group them into our invoicing document. Okay. So SAP CI invoicing, you can say data selection, creation of invoicing unit, execution of the additional functions, account maintenance, update. So this you can see in the actual class when you work in the system. Now, in nutshell, you can say billing documents. Whenever you create a billing document, you get an invoicing order. Okay. Until you prepare the invoicing order, until you prepare the invoicing order is open. Okay. So selection of invoicing orders based on certain criteria, and then invoicing will happen. Okay. So just like in the ISU billing, when you create a metering order, a billing order is created. Billing order will remain open till you do the billing. Likewise here, when you have the billing documents created in the CI system, they will have a invoicing order. That means it is open for invoicing. That means when the invoice is prepared, the invoicing order is removed. Okay, it is a temporary data, you can say. Apart from the billable item management, billing, and also invoicing module, there are other functionalities what we'll be learning during the training program, like SAP CI triggered rating. That means instead of depending on the external CC system, we will upload the consumption data and then initiate the rating. Scheduling. Scheduling includes basically the cycles, okay, like billing cycle or rating cycle. That means we have many billable items. We don't want to put them into individual billing document. All these billable items which are there will have a target date. Okay, that means you have to wait till the target date has appeared, then only billing can happen. Okay, for example, some billable items are there in this month. Let's say in June. Okay, it happened originated on 1st of June, 3rd of June, 10th of June. Okay, but they all have to be waited till end of June to put them into a billing document. So this is decided by the billing cycle. Like billing cycle is monthly, once in fortnight, once in a week, or daily. So that means we can minimize loading heavily on the system, rather select the items according to the criteria and then put them into one single billing document. as per the target date. Scheduling, discount calculation in terms of concealing the discount item. Billing plans are required to generate the billing items. Like for example, you can have a billing plan created based on the subscription order. So when these billing plans are executed, it will convert directly into billable items. Okay. Billing request for the correction. For example, we have some debit memo, credit memo to be created. Already billing has happened, invoice has happened. You want to correct them. Then you can go for the billing request for correction. Display billing work list. Now, clarification work list means where clarification has happened, but we want to check and release it. That's where the clarification work list will come. Periodic processing. Okay. Periodic processing is mostly the mass processing. Like what we have in FICA, the periodic processing here, we can process at a time n number of billing documents, n number of invoices. Okay. So if you go to our application menu, you can see various periodic processing. So if you go to SAP menu, and then go to financial accounting, and then contract accounts and payable, and then convergent invoicing, periodic activities. Okay. For example, at a time I can execute billing for particular billing process and sub process with the billing due date for a range of contract accounts. Okay. This is like a mass processing. Okay. Or invoicing for n number of contract accounts under the invoicing process, you can do document date and range of contract accounts. So these are all basically rating. For example, I can also do rating activity for consumption items based on the basically rating group, one or many rating group. I can initiate mass processing. So these come under the periodic processing. Then you have billing documents where you also do reversal activity. Okay, reverse the billing document, and then you also invoicing document, reversal of the invoicing document. Okay, so reversal tasks also can be carried out. Reversal is a part and parcel of the system. For reversal, you have to maintain some separate set of configurations. Okay, so in nutshell, you can say the facility what we have here is in SAP CI, a very flexible billing invoicing solution, not based on a traditional model of billing only based on the product-based billing or consumption-based billing, but a wide variety of billing occurrences depending on the hybrid nature of the billable items. We can have these billable items generated from the external sources, get them into SAP CI and store them, and then once these items are available in a billable status, we can execute the billing. Okay. Billing again takes into account the creating billing units by basically selecting the billable items, and then according to criteria, one or many billing units are created. For each one billing unit, we'll have a separate billing document and then invoicing. Okay, and all this will happen through integration with the FICA. Now, going into configuration area, we can broadly look into areas of configuration. So if you go to FI and then go to contract accounts and payable, and then you have the convergent invoicing. This is the main area of configuration, basic functions. Consumption item, just like we create a billable item class, we can configure the consumption item class. If you want to upload the consumption items directly into SAP CI system, we need a consumption item class. Then billable item class for storing the billable items. And then you have the scheduling where you maintain the billing cycle. Okay. This billing cycle will go and sit in the contract account, or you can also have it in the provider contract. Okay. This will fix the basically our billing target date. Okay. Then you have the pricing. This pricing what we're talking about is for a posting area which is 8200. This procedure will be used in the rating activity. Suppose you are doing the rating within the SAP CI, you can done the rating done through the various function model program. The rating done to 30, that is the indication, that is going to based on the basically a SG module pricing procedure. Okay, a simple pricing procedure. So this is pricing about that. Then you have the rating and invoicing. Rating, you define the rating group. In billing, you define the billing process, additional functions, creation of additional billing document items, and then also the discount and charges, surcharges and discounts calculation can be configured from here. Then the billing documents. Billing document has the basically billing document type and also basic settings for reversals also can be configured here. Invoicing. Partner settlement. Partner settlement means like in the subscription models, we are giving some subscription services to a consumer, but the item is actually given by partner. So we charge the customer to collect the payment for our service, but you have to make the payment to the vendor who has given the service. Okay. So there is a partner settlement in the company. So depending on the requirements, you can customize all this. And then we also maintain separately configurations in FICA, the main transaction, sub transaction. For example, if you go to contract accounts payable, in the FICA, we have got basic functions where you define the document type. Okay, where you define the document type. Then functions, postings and documents. Like when you prepare an invoice in CI, it has posted document in FICA. So those document types are defined here. Okay. Again, sometimes you may post only one invoice, sometimes you may post mass invoices. Okay, so you have to maintain different number ranges, just like how you do it in FICA, you do that here. Define account assignments for automatic posting. Then here we define the main transactions, sub transactions. Okay, so that is what to do. This is for the GL account determination. As far as document is concerned, maintain document assignments. So here you define the main and sub transaction. Okay, and then assign them to company code. Then you declare whether a particular sub transaction is debit or credit. Okay, this is a standard FICA configuration what to do otherwise in FICA. Okay, so this is done. So this is done. Suppose in our system we need sometimes provider contract. Provider contract is actually created through subscription order. Okay, then you have to a little bit about the subscription order management also. Now we have to make certain configurations in service. These will influence our distribution of the subscription order, subscription contract. So this also will be covered in our training, although not as full scale as BRIM. If you are going to learn BRIM, then it becomes that this is a starting area of configuration because they'll be looking at the subscription order. Okay, not at the configuration of the sub accounting system or SAP CI. SAP CI is part of the financial accounting. It's a part of the contract accounting module. Okay, but BRIM consultant would be more actively involved in subscription order management. Okay, so all this will become important thing. But for us to get a provider contract, we have to do some basic configuration which we can create the subscription order. Subscription order can be created with the Fiori application and a provider contract is created. Okay, so this is a very brief outlay about the area of configuration. So this is about the SAP CI, a basic presentation. Hope it has given you some idea, but you can always write to me any clarifications are required. In the description, I'll also give my mail ID where you can make mails. You can also refer to my earlier video which was presented on the FICA itself, contract accounting module. Because sometimes apart from the CI skills, we need to have the complete overall skills of the FICA itself. So you can avail that training also separately. Okay. So thank you for watching the video.